Hi YouTube, it's Allie from Allie's Best, and it is like 12:05 a.m. On December 4th, and I am sitting here on the couch because I filmed the intro to another video, and I thought if I'm going to be laying here for potentially hours, that maybe I could knock out another just kind of talking style video that maybe no one wants to see, but I'm going to put it on the internet anyway. So I thought I would tell you guys Bowie May's birth story, or my labor. You'll see why I air quote that later, but my labor and delivery story. To begin, Bowie was, I think this might be relevant, but Bowie was my fourth pregnancy. I had 3 pregnancies before her. All of them ended in miscarriage. 2 of them ended in miscarriages that I had to have a D&C for, which is like a procedure like a surgery, but not exactly surgery, but you go under general anesthetic, or you can. I chose to. I was already on edge about getting, every mom is on edge about getting their baby to the world safely. But once you've had a miscarriage, or once you've had multiple miscarriages, I think it kind of heightens the worry because you have lost a baby before. I was really anxious about getting her here. So by the time I was like 35 weeks, I think, I started asking my doctor's office, like, what was the earliest possible time I could get induced. I had gestational diabetes, so I thought maybe they'll induce me a week early. I just wanted to get Bowie here as soon as possible because I knew, like, after I think 32 weeks or something, it's like the babies are generally like gonna be good to go. Ideally, they stay in for longer, but like they'll be okay, right? And I wasn't trying to get induced at 35 weeks. I was just wanted to know, like, how early can we do this? And so, because my gestational diabetes was really well controlled by my diet and I didn't need any medication or anything like that, they were like, we will only induce you when you are a week overdue. So I get an induction date for 41 weeks. As it's coming up, I'm kind of hoping, like, really any day now she could come. Any day now she can come. Like 38 weeks, I'm like, any day now she could come. 39 weeks, oh, I can feel it. Any moment she'll come. At 40 weeks, obviously there's going to be TMI stuff, like vagina stuff. So if you like can't handle vagina stuff, like leave. I have a friend who's like exactly as pregnant as I am, and she gets her cervix checked like between 38 and 39 weeks, I think, and she's dilated a little bit. And I thought, okay, well, that means at my appointment, at my 39-week appointment, I'll have a cervical check too. So I go in, I have my regular appointment, they don't do anything. And I asked the lady, I said, okay, well, can I get a cervical check? And she was like, here's the deal. I could give you a cervical check and you could be 4 centimeters dilated and not give birth for 2 weeks. Or I could give you a cervical check and you could be 0 centimeters dilated and you could give birth this evening. Like, I can't tell you what's going to happen. And I thought, okay, well, if that's really the case, like, either of those outcomes would be really frustrating to me. So, like, I don't feel like I need to know, which was so good. A week later, I have my 40-week checkup. They definitely want to do a cervical check because baby's not here yet. And it is so painful. And, like, I've had pap smears, and I've had the speculum, the opening thing, like, before, never bothered me. This cervical check, I'm like, I start to cry, I yelp. It's a bad scene. I'm upset. It's not fun, but I do it. And she's like, you are a half, no, she goes, you are a fingertip, a half centimeter dilated, da, 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 da. And I was like, in my head, I was like, that's totally what they tell people so they don't have to say, you're not dilated at all. I come home and I'm bummed, but I remember the other lady said, like, you could be nothing and then you could deliver that night. So, 40 weeks 1 day, 40 weeks 2 days, 40 weeks 3 days. We're waiting. No baby. She doesn't come. Fine. Which means we go in for my induction date. My induction date was the 15th. So on the 14th, the hospital's like almost 2 hours away. So on the 14th, we go down to the town where the hospital is and stay in a hotel. So we wanted to get up early that day. So me, my husband, my mom, my mother-in-law, and my father-in-law all go to a town 2 hours away and get hotel rooms. We go have Chinese food. It's all great. We're so excited for the next day. In the morning, we brought donuts to all the nurses. We get set up in our room. I mean, like, going in for an induction is really fun because, like, you're not in labor yet. So, like, you don't feel anything and you're just chilling, and someone comes in and, like, tells you the plan and everything's great. They give me a cervical ripener. And they basically say, like, you need to be on the monitoring machine 15 minutes out of every hour. And then the other 45 minutes, I get to walk around the hospital and, like, try to get labor going. And so, they give me the cervical ripener. I walk around. I start getting little contractions, but nothing too crazy. Like, I don't feel them. That's my whole day. It's like, my in-laws are there. People come in with food. We're chatting. I do like a million tours of the hospital. I'm walking around in my cute little robe. I'm doing all this stuff and it seems great. My father-in-law and mother-in-law are nurses. So when we're back at the room, they are looking at my little chart and they're like, oh yeah, we see those contractions. That seems good. Well, come 10 at night, they decide to do a cervical check. And they think that that's important to do. I guess I was having a lot of contractions. Not super strong ones because I wasn't really feeling them, but they were saying I was having them, like a lot of them, and they wanted to make sure that they were working. So they do a cervical check, and it is horrible. I'm shaking. I'm crying. It is really bad. Like, I have never reacted that way to anything in that area. And they say, I have not changed at all. And so they decide that they want to put in a different cervical ripener that comes on a little plastic stick. And I say, okay, let's do that. The thing I'm really scared of is the Foley bulb. That's what I really don't want because I hear that hurts a lot to get put in, right? The internet told me this. So my midwife puts in the plastic cervical ripener. If I thought the cervical check was bad, this was excruciating. And I know, like, it's labor and maybe I'm sounding like a baby. I was expecting a different kind of pain. Like, this literally felt like knife in my vagina pain. Like a scraping, serrated knife. I am crying. I am shaking. I, like, cannot calm down. I, like, cry for my mom, who, God bless, was there and came in and hugged me and tried to make me feel better. My nurse was, like, definitely surprised at my reaction. So they gave me that night, they gave me an Ambien to fall asleep. So I fall asleep. In the morning, they take it out and they do another cervical check, and nothing had changed. Nothing had changed. Nothing had changed. I was still half a centimeter dilated. Nothing had changed. This whole time I'm getting, like, amazing bedside manner, by the way. So I don't want to, like, diss my nurses or midwives because they're awesome. But, like, this part was, like, that process was frustrating. On the morning of the 16th, their plan is, let's just repeat what we did yesterday. Instead of putting this like one pill in my vagina, they were going to give it to me orally to see if it brought on contractions, but slower. Fine. Cool thing, they give me a wireless monitor so I don't have to be, like, stuck in bed a certain way. That was cool. Fine. But they want to do the exact same thing, which includes the evil vagina stabby thing. And I was like, I'll do the first part of the plan, but I am not going to do the evil vagina stabby thing. And as we're trying to have this discussion, I said to them, like, I realize that the pain I'm going through right now with, these little interventions is not nearly as bad as labor is going to be. I'm understanding that. And I understand that on a separate side note, like healing from a C-section is like really, really hard. Like based on what I had seen on the internet, people are like, it's horrible. I've had midwives and doctors tell me like a C-section is the last thing we want to do because the recovery is so horrible. And so I'm like, I understand that that's horrible and that birth is hard and like all these things are painful, but like you could make me do this painful intervention, then make me try painful labor, and I could end up having a C-section and healing from that is painful. But like just going with a C-section right now means we know for sure we get the baby. And they're basically like, well, we can ask a doctor, but like that would be an elective C-section. And I'm sitting there like, so like, can I elect to do a C-section now? Like, I'm electing, pick me, I'm ready, ding ding, C-section me, please, let's do it. And like, I never really got a straight answer as to like why I wasn't allowed to do that. Like, that's something that's still really weird to me. And like, I don't know if I just needed to protest more and just like push more. We do all that stuff during the day. They skip the cervical check before giving. Oh, no, that's not true. I get a different midwife. And the different midwife comes in and says, like, after we do the cervical, she says, I need to give you a cervical check. And then I really want you to consider doing the plastic evil vagina blade thing. And I was like, no, I'm not doing it. And then she gave me a cervical check, and it wasn't horrible. It was like really not that bad in comparison to the ones that I had before. I still was like 1 centimeter dilated at that point. Disappointing, but it didn't hurt as bad. And then she put in the evil vagina evil vagina plastic thing. And that didn't hurt as bad going in. And I thought, ooh, great. I am so glad I did this. Like, maybe it'll make some progress. Maybe it'll be great. Turns out that evening, it starts to really hurt. Like, it hurts more just being left in there than it did the night before. I'm getting really agitated. It's really upsetting to me. And now that I say this, it seems ridiculous because I'm not even in labor yet. Like, there's no laboring happening. I am not feeling contractions. I just feel pain, like stabbing, ripping pain in my vagina, and I can't handle it. So they give me morphine, which is part of why this whole thing is confusing to me and probably to you. They give me morphine. I guess it works. I get through the night. Next day, they take out the thing that hurt. It's gone. We do a cervical check, and I'm like maybe 2 centimeters dilated, something like that. Some nothing number, no real contractions. And my midwife comes in and says, okay, a few things are happening. One, this induction at this point is just going too slowly. Not enough's happening, and we want to get more aggressive. The second thing that's happening is that your vagina is extra sensitive. It's really hurting you to do the cervical checks. So what they decided to do was basically like skip ahead a million steps, like skip forward to if I was like 5 centimeters dilated. And so they gave me an epidural, and then they inserted a Foley balloon, which is basically like this thing that goes through your cervix, and then they inflate a catheter balloon on the other side, and the pressure of that is supposed to help open your cervix. And then they also put me on Pitocin, and they were just like, we're gonna go from like not 0 to 60, but like 0 to 45. And it started to work really good. Like I had I had the Foley catheter and a regular catheter. I was on the Pitocin, still like family going in and out. Like, they said I could eat snacks. Like, so I'm eating food with my family. Things are going good. Like the nurse is coming in and chatting with me and asking me if I'm feeling the contractions, and I don't feel them. And she's like popping up the Pitocin every time she needs to, and things are good. And like every so often, probably around maybe 4, the nurse starts coming in and saying things like, oh, shift to your left, like baby doesn't like this side. Oh, like shift to your right, baby doesn't like this side. Oh, shift back to your left, that was better, that was better. And that happens like, throughout like some chunks of the day. Maybe we go like a few hours in between, like me shifting side to side, um, and trying to like get things comfortable. And then um, maybe around 8ish, I guess. I'm trying to put together the time. Pat and I are sitting in the room, and our little alarm about her heartbeat, it goes off, but it's been going off all day, and I just shift sides and she's fine. And we look at the little heart rate number, and it's like plummeting. And like I remember looking at it and just being like, what the hell is happening? And then the nurse runs in and says, change, like she yells at me, like, change sides, flip over. And then the alarm doesn't go off. And she yells at Pat, and she says, hit the call button. And he hits the call button, and she just starts yelling into it. She says, like, call the doctor right now, get people in here right now. And it's like really scary. And like all of a sudden there's all these nurses in the room, and like I guess my midwife got there eventually, and they start yelling at me. They say, get on your hands and knees, get on your hands and knees, get on your hands and knees. And like I have an epidural. I literally cannot feel, I mean, I don't know where it started, but I definitely cannot feel my legs. So I'm just like grunting and like trying with all my might, and like trying to remind myself, like, you may not be able to feel your legs, but like part of your brain like must be able to use them still. And like trying, I don't even, people must have been helping me, but I'm like trying to flip over and get on my hands and legs, and they start yelling like, we need to get a monitor on this baby, we need to get a monitor on this baby. So they like have me flip back over, and then my midwife like gets this, I think they call it a hook, and she puts it into my vagina to break my water. And I looked down at her, and she had like real, like it was taking her real physical effort to get in there and break my water, and like you could see the physical effort on her face. And I was just like, in that moment, despite everything else that was going on, like despite the fact that Bowie was in distress, despite the fact everything, I remember looking at her and thinking like, holy shit, I am so glad I have an epidural right now, because that person, totally something that had to happen. Like, I am not upset about this at all, but like the amount of physical strength that she needs to use to do what she's doing right now, like, imagine what that would feel like without these drugs. So, anyway, so she breaks my water. They get a monitor on Bowie's head, and she is stabilized, and things are okay. And so the doctor comes in. The doctor gets to be all calm. The doctor comes in and says, baby doesn't seem to like these contractions, so we're going to do a C-section. I predicted this. Anyway, so we had an urgent but not emergency C-section. I don't really remember a lot of the details about this part, but basically, like, they got me ready for surgery, whatever that meant, rolled me in, got me on the table, prepped my body with this, like, tight-fitting plastic thing on my skin, the blue curtain, of course. The anesthesiologist is, like, back here. My husband sits over here whenever they let him in. And they start the surgery. And the surgery is really weird because you're awake for it and you can talk during it, but they are cutting open your body and digging around. And you can feel the digging around part. Like, you can feel the pressure pull. I mean, like, it's so weird because, like, obviously it doesn't feel like anything you've ever felt before. But yeah, you feel like that digging around and stuff, and it's crazy. And it's like not pain, but it's like almost pain. You're like, that should hurt, but it doesn't. All of a sudden, like, all the people on the other side of the curtain doing the surgery kind of gasp, and I say, like, is everything okay? Because I was too scared to talk too loud because I didn't want to like shake up what they were doing. And they were like, "Oh yeah, we were just talking about one of the girls' costumes for their kid, and it's gonna be so cute." And that actually, like, I know some people, and I tell them that, they're like, "How horrible!" And I'm like, no, that's great, because the surgery was so routine that they could have just like a normal life conversation. It's like, had they been like silent and serious, is when I feel like that would have been scary. So all of a sudden, they say, "Dad, you can look over," and Pat stands up, and I feel some tugging, and there's like a quiet moment, and then Bowie May starts crying, and they take her out and put her near my face, and she holds my nose, and yeah, it was great. She's born, they weigh her, she's great, she's healthy, she's pooping up a storm, wonderful. She gets her vaccinations, great, fine. They sew me up, put me on a gurney thing, bring me back to my room, and they put some like compression things on me and stuff, and start me like drinking water as like the first thing I'm allowed to have. And so, that night was fine. And then like the next day, I was like up and walking around the hospital once they said I could. Like, they helped me go to the bathroom the next day. I don't remember why, because I had a catheter. Yeah, I don't remember. But like the next day, I was just like walking around the hospital, doing laps. I had a friend visit. I felt good. I like started eating food kind of before they wanted me to, but I was like, I'm hungry. And they were like, "Okay, usually you try to see how you do with like applesauce." And I was like eating a burger. And so like by the time, like the day I left, I was asking them like, "Can I go to the Halloween carnival that's happening in this town? Like, am I good to go?" And they were like, "You really need to take a leg off. Like, you need to take it easy." And I felt great. Like, I was asking to drive right away. Like, I felt really good. And so here's something I want to tell people. I wish there was less fear mongering about C-sections, because it wasn't bad. Like, the worst part about healing from the C-section, the worst part was I ended up with horrible swelling. I had really bad swelling for a couple days, and that really hurt and really bothered me. But it was swelling in my legs. Like, it wasn't from the C-section. It was from like being in the hospital for an extra long time, which I wouldn't have been if I had just got a C-section initially, or if I had gotten a C-section when I asked for one. Yeah, that's honestly basically it. Like, I started driving like a week after surgery, and the only reason it took that long is because the people around me didn't want me to drive. They wanted me to take it easy. Like, left to my own devices, I could have easily driven a car. Like, my mother-in-law would say, like, "Don't drive a car until you could slam on the brake." And I was like, I could slam on the brake right now. Like, I don't think people understood, like, from the C-section, there was no pain. Like, my stomach did not hurt. My incision did not hurt. Like, it did not hurt. And here's a couple things I will say. Like, getting up out of bed was harder. Like, my body did not work in the same way necessarily. Like, using my abs was harder to do, and maybe I wasn't supposed to be doing that, but like, using my abs was harder to do, but it was not a painful thing to do. But yeah, around week 5 postpartum, I had some stomach pains. But other than that, those like came and went, and everything was fine. Everything healed great. It was like really not bad. But basically what I'm trying to say is, like, for me, I did zero laboring, essentially. I had one contraction that I felt. One contraction. And then the healing from the C-section was like pretty easy, like really easy. Like, hey YouTube, it's Allie who's doing the editing, not Allie who is speaking in the video. And I actually talked to Pat about the pain part to get his opinion. And he said that I did complain a little bit about stomach pain when standing up and sitting down and that kind of stuff. So I remember not really hurting, but Pat remembers it differently. So I don't think any of us thought it was as bad as we thought it was going to be, but my memory might be a little jaded too. So keep that in mind. The flu is worse for me. Like, I've had a worse flu than healing from a C-section. Like, it does, like, I don't want to say like you will feel the exact same as you did before labor, because that's not true either. Like, I would say my body works differently now than it did before the C-section. But like, I think a lot of moms would say that after having a baby in either direction. Like, your body isn't the same. And my body isn't the same, but like the scar is not bad and it didn't hurt. It's just like my body needs to like get back to working the right way. But yeah, I would give getting a C-section like 10 out of 10. Who knows? I might be singing a different song out if I have a C-section with the next one, which I may just choose to do. But yeah. So I hope that was somewhat coherent. I hope it was somewhat helpful. I just wanted to go out in the world and tell my birth story and the birth of baby Bobo. Here she is. Such a beautiful ear. And it looks like she has so much hair from here, but she doesn't have any on the front.